To all of our witnesses for joining us today. Spirit Airlines was once the nation's leading ultra-low-cost carrier and one of the strongest forces in the economy holding down ticket prices for consumers. It's now collapsed, and we cannot have a serious conversation about the demise of Spirit without talking about the obvious main culprit, the president's disastrous and illegal war in Iran. The Iran war has not only cost the lives of 13 American service members and thousands of Iranian civilians, including hundreds of children, it has cost American taxpayers more than $100 billion, and it's cost American consumers more than $60 billion in increased fuel costs alone, which averages to more than $470 per American household. It also caused the cost of jet fuel to double overnight, forcing Spirit to take on an extra $100 million in unexpected costs in just a couple of months. For an ultra-low-cost carrier like Spirit, which operates on thin margins to deliver the best value to customers, that was a corporate death sentence. As Spirit Airlines explained in its legal filings, the company went under because, quote, recent geopolitical events have resulted in a massive and sustained increase in fuel prices. But desperate to avoid any mention of Donald Trump's calamitous and historic blunder in Iran, which has split the Republican Party, my colleagues today have decided instead, somewhat comically, to blame overzealous antitrust enforcement. Americans are paying more today for groceries, gasoline, healthcare, housing, utilities, and yes, airfare. At the same time, a vanishingly small number of companies is thriving. Consider the S&P 500, a stock market index of 500 publicly traded U.S. companies. Last month, the Financial Times published an analysis showing that just 5 of those 500 companies, or 1%, accounted for 50% of the growth of the index. In the airline industry, the story of lopsided growth and economic concentration is the same. In 2000, the 4 largest carriers controlled roughly 60% of domestic traffic. Today, they control about 80%. One merger after another has consolidated the market power of the 4 major airlines, American, Delta, Southwest, and United. The result? Higher prices, lower wages, growing profits. Protecting competition requires regulators willing to say no to corporate consolidation. In 2023, the DOJ blocked JetBlue's attempted acquisition of Spirit. The result? Spirit continued to operate as an ultra-low-cost airline, offering consumers lower prices than competitor airlines and driving down the price of tickets on competitors. Economists called this, quote, the Spirit effect. When an ultra-low-cost airline like Spirit operates a route, the price of tickets on legacy carriers like American drops by an average of 21%. As Judge Young, the Reagan-appointed judge who upheld the DOJ decision to block the Spirit-JetBlue merger, explained, quote, if JetBlue were permitted to gobble up Spirit, at least as proposed, it would eliminate one of the airline industry's few primary competitors that provides unique innovation and price discipline. It would further consolidate an oligopoly by immediately doubling JetBlue's stakeholder size in the industry. Worse yet, the merger would likely incentivize JetBlue further to abandon its roots as a maverick low-cost carrier. DOJ's actions in 2023 protected consumers from increased costs by focusing airlines to continue competing with Spirit and its ultra-low airfares until skyrocketing prices caused by Trump's disastrous war in Iran caused the airline to collapse. Yet our colleagues have taken the wrong lesson from this story, claiming we need less antitrust enforcement rather than more. This is alarming because under the Trump administration, antitrust enforcement has already been twisted and corrupted beyond recognition. Instead of being a tool to protect competition and innovation and to prevent companies from abusing their market power over consumers and workers, it's become just one more grift perpetrated by the president and his enablers for their own purposes of wealth maximization. Antitrust practitioners talk about a Trump transaction tax, the recognition that merger approval depends less on objective considerations and competition factors and more on a company's willingness to curry subjective political and financial favor with the president and the money-making operation being conducted at the White House. The warning signs of gangster state crony capitalism are everywhere. In the last 12 months, this administration has cleared the Nexstar Tegna local broadcast merger, which will undermine the diversity of independently owned news operations in which a coalition of state AGs has already obtained a preliminary injunction to halt. It has settled the Live Nation Ticketmaster case with terms so favorable to Live Nation that the basic sweeping harms to artists, venues, and millions of fans remain largely unaddressed. It cleared the Paramount, Skydance, Warner Brothers Discovery deal before career investigators had even completed their antitrust analysis. And every senior antitrust official who has cried foul over this pattern of concentration, including Assistant Attorney General Gail Slater at Department of Justice and her Principal Deputy Attorney General Roger Alford, has been pushed out or fired for the offense of simply doing their jobs, the jobs they signed up to do and which the law requires of them. The consequences of this antitrust corruption and pro-monopoly favoritism are simple. Corporations pass the Trump tax on to consumers. We pay higher prices for fewer choices, less competition, less innovation, more instability. Instead of concocting a cover story for the president, which blames Biden for the disastrous consequences of the Trump tariff and the Trump war in Iran, we should be doing serious oversight of an antitrust enforcement system that has been thoroughly smashed up in this administration. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.